Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Strip by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. Welcome back everyone. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kim Chi. I want to say at this point, former stripper, but also sexy content creator, former sugar baby, all of the things. It's actually my 1 year anniversary doing the podcast, which is like really crazy and weird. I just can't believe I've gotten this far, but like thank you to everyone who's been listening and finds this podcast interesting. I do it all for you guys, so keep on staying tuned. This week is kind of different. So there is a show out there called P Valley, aka Pussy Valley, which centers around strippers in the South. And I personally just got hooked right away. This show debuted not too long ago, just wrapped up season 1. So I thought I would go ahead and try my best to dissect it. But I can't do this alone. So I invited one of our fellow listeners onto the show today. We have Miss Kat Daniels joining us on the show. She is a stripper in Ontario, and she will tell us a little bit about herself, because I actually don't know too much about you at all, except that you seem really freaking cool and responded to my Who Wants to Dissect the Show with me. So thank you, Kat. Are you there? Kat?
Hi.
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 I'm like, that's your cue to come in.
I'm here. Hello.
Hello. So feel free to tell the audience like who you are, what you do, how you got started, your whole story. We want to learn about you as well. So, and go.
Thank you. So I go by Kat Daniels in the club. I am an infant stripper. I started just in January, actually. So I'm pretty late to the game.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so kind of got shut down by COVID pretty quickly.
Yes.
So that was kind of a bummer, but I'm back at work. I've been back since July 17th. We reopened in Ontario on that day. So yeah, it's been really fun. I have a dog walking business that I run during the day. But at night, I take my clothes off for people.
Yay. And that's totally okay. I support it.
Thank you.
That's amazing. So what the heck? I didn't know that you were a baby stripper.
Yeah. And I'm kind of older too. And I think you might have discussed this on previous episodes with other people, but I'm 34.
Okay.
Yes,
30's club. You look like you're 26 though. Let's be real.
Thanks. Yeah. So, and I found just kind of the response at the club when I told men younger than 50 that I was 34, they were kind of okay, thank you, next. So I lie about my age now. I hate it, but it is what it is.
Oh my gosh. You know what? You guys got to do what you got to do. And it's not, I wouldn't really want to say it's lying. It's just part of the game of selling. So it's not a bad thing. I mean, we've had other people too come in the show and they think, oh, they're super young. They're like, actually, I'm really much older than that. And some people like that. Some people don't feel comfortable talking to super young girls. But, I mean, whatever floats your boat, right? There's someone out there for everyone. So
you're right.
How did you get started with the stripping game in Ontario?
Well, I've always been an admirer of strip clubs, and I've, been a patron for many, many years.
Yay.
And it's kind of been an industry that I've been curious about, but I never really had the self-awareness and the confidence when it came to my own sexuality and my body, let's be honest.
Yes, okay.
Up until the last few years, I didn't really have that. And so once I kind of started to just, feel more into my sexuality, my sensuality, I was like, that's something that I'd be really interested in. And I'd love to try it. And, this year kind of came around and I had a little bit of credit card debt that I had built up. And I was like, that's how I'm going to pay it off.
Cool.
And so I kind of jumped into it with that goal in mind, for the end of the year to get everything cleared, get some money invested, and kind of turn that around, right? Turn the debt into investments.
Totally.
So yeah, that was the plan. And that still is the plan and kind of the reason why I got into it. But it's been so much fun. it's very empowering for me. You know, it pushes me out of my comfort zone, and it's been a really, really good time overall.
That's incredible. I'm so glad to hear that. And like, how did you start to overcome like your sexuality, not sexuality, your sensuality, and also just feeling comfortable in your own body and your own skin? Like, was there a kind of process for you in order to do that, or did like stripping help with that?
There was definitely a process. So like it's been over the last few years. I kind of I was in a relationship a few years ago that was super unhealthy, and I was trying to kind of find ways to make it work, to kind of change things around. And I started listening to podcasts, you know, about relationships and communication. And kind of that quickly turned into finding this really interesting podcast. She's not doing it anymore, but it was called Sex Gets Real.
Okay.
By this woman named Dawn Sarah. And it was incredible for the years that she ran it. And it was just mostly about like her journey with BDSM and kink and non-monogamy. And that's kind of where the interest actually started.
Okay.
And where I started to kind of gain like the skills when it comes to like healthy communication and boundaries. Like I didn't know that boundaries were a thing that you could enforce.
Yes, definitely a thing. Very important thing.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think learning just that and learning that I am able and capable of saying no to people, those were game changers. And I think once I was able to kind of, you know, as most women, like you're taught, you know, whether it's directly or indirectly, you know, to please, and that, you know, your body may be a little bit shameful and that you're not really supposed to be enjoying sex, or at least that's kind of what I was taught. Yeah. So kind of just being given that, you know, quote unquote permission to like do what I want to do. And then just kind of starting to go down the rabbit hole of like, you know, BDSM and, you know, kink play and submission and dominance and, you know, going to play parties and things like that. And it was kind of just a progression that sort of just, you know, as the momentum kept going, it kind of just kept feeling good, and I just kept exploring. And then, that's where I kind of was like, okay, I'm confident enough to be able to really think about doing this. That's awesome. I had taken pole lessons, like 8 years ago. Okay. So I knew I enjoyed it. I knew I could throw my body around a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Wow. It's such a journey too. And like once you unlock that, once you become aware of your body and aware of like who you are, it just changes things. And I'm not just talking about like in terms of sex work, but just realizing who you are as a person and your value. It's pretty much life-changing. It really is. You're right. Yeah. That's crazy. And you mentioned you're based in Ontario. Sorry, I forgot to say what city you're based in.
So I'm just about 2 hours west of Toronto, in a city called London. Okay. So we're kind of like a big university town. We have a university and a college here. Yes. You know, it's like a mid-sized city. It's about, I'd say like, I don't know, 400,000 or 500,000 people. So it's not huge, but I love it here.
And the clubs are open again there too. And how are the clubs over there?
So I've only ever worked at the one club that I'm at now. You know, I've visited a lot of other ones. So the clubs here, do you mean like kind of overall or like after COVID?
Both.
Or not after, we're still in it.
We're still in
it. The clubs in Ontario are, I mean, it sounds like they're quite different than, you know, what I hear other people talking about on your podcast. Yeah. Especially like out west, you know? Yes. You know, from what I've gathered, we don't have to pay nearly as much to work as the girls do out west.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like when it comes to like
floor fees,
house fees, tip outs, like the club actually taking money off of your dances. Yes. Like, they don't do that to us.
No, that's awesome.
Every dollar I make, except for my house fee and like $5 to the DJ, I get to take home.
Nice. That's pretty good.
Yes. So I like that in Ontario.
Yeah, that's a pretty good metric for sure.
Yeah, I mean, things like something that's really different for us now is the bylaw in my city is that, you know, no touching is allowed in strip clubs. But, you know, when you kind of walk in the door, they're sort of like, you do you. You can enforce the rule of no touching, or, you know, you can allow them, but the rule is no touching. So,
Interesting.
that was always something that kind of, I was always like, oh, this sucks. Like, I don't like it. You'd get men that would try to lick you. And it's just like, so coming back and not having to deal with that has been a blessing. I've been really enjoying that.
That's awesome. That's incredible. Yeah, like the clubs here in BC, things have closed down again, and they were already kind of closing, but now since the cases have been going up again, like astronomically, I think there was like 400 plus cases last weekend. Our chief medical officer basically put a curfew on things now. There's like a 10 p.m. cutoff. Yeah, 10 p.m. cutoff for restaurants that are serving alcohol, and then all bars and like clubs have to close again, which I kind of understand because things were just getting out of hand and people are just not giving a shit again. And it's just been really frustrating. So I understand where she's coming from, but it just like sucks.
It totally sucks. And I feel really bad for everybody who kind of like got the taste of like going back to work and like that boost in just like mental health and, feeling like you're kind of getting a bit of your life back, and then to be shuttered again. Like, is every club out there closed now?
I would assume so, because she just said, bars closed. Clubs closed. Hard closed.
I've been kind of anticipating that to maybe happen here.
Yeah.
And, if it does, it does. Like, I understand it as well, like you were saying. Like, the more alcohol you get in people and the later they sit there, like, they become a bit more uninhibited. They want to push the boundaries, and, it's not really my jam to be there, like, super, super late these days.
No, and just to fuck around with your health and other people's health, like, I'm not down for it, so...
Yeah, everybody's been pretty good about their masks at my club, I will say.
Good, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's been super nice. And I always tell men, like, God, your mask is so sexy.
I'm sure they love to hear that. Okay, well, without further ado, why don't we pivot the conversation to what the topic is for this entire week? So we're talking about P-Valley. P-Valley. It is...
Pussy Valley, baby.
Pussy Valley. It's like a brand new show. Season 1 just launched, I think it was in July now. And they only had 8 episodes when they came out, and season 1 just wrapped like last Sunday. So it was a crazy show. So like, I guess some background, if you guys are not familiar with the show, it's on the Starz network. So if you have Crave, like, you'll be able to get that. It's based on the play by the playwright Katori Hall. She actually grew up in the South, which is where this show is located. And it's set in the Mississippi Delta, aka Dirty South, Dirty Delta, in the fictional town of Chucalissa. And it starts off with like some flashback scenes of a flood. There's a tragic event. It's following this girl, Haley, who finds a suitcase with like an ID. There's some Christian Louboutins in there, and like she's got like a bank card, and basically trying to follow her and trying her luck in getting a job at the local strip club, which is called the Pynk. And they're like, it just sets the tone for the entire show. Like it turned out to be like, it started off as like really, really mysterious. I didn't really know what it was about, but it goes in to follow the lives of not only the dancers that work there, but also people that are involved with the club, the bouncer, the owner, one of the dancers' moms and stuff, and going into those relationships and stuff. But it's a really cool show. I loved the music. I loved all the acrobatics that they did with pole. And I just loved how they showed a lot of like real stories of people, I would say, even though it is a show. But like, I personally thought it was like, whoa, what is a show? It just came out of nowhere. This is really cool. Kat, like, what are your first kind of thoughts about it?
My first thoughts when I started watching it were, the first episode, like you said, it's kind of a bit confusing, but then as soon as she shows up at the strip club for her job, and she's like in this pencil skirt,
I know,
this flowy blouse, and like her really nice heels, and I'm just like, she gets in the line to kind of go get involved in the like essentially like an amateur night was what they were doing, right?
Exactly.
And just like everything from the locker room to the way that Uncle Clifford looks at her and is just sort of like, girl, you need some floss. Like, oh, it was just I felt like it felt like it was kind of like every person walking into the club on their first night, not knowing like what to do, what to wear, how to move your body, you know, getting up on stage. And that just warmed my heart. Like, as somebody who's so new, I was kind of like, oh girl, you'll get there.
I totally feel the same way. Cause like, again, I shared those sentiments because that's like how I got started too, was through an amateur night. And again, like not knowing what to wear. Like it looked like she was wearing like she was going to the office or something. I was like, you're not going to be able to move in that skirt. Like, how are you going to take that skirt off, girl?
No.
But yeah, it was really nice to like kind of like have that nostalgic-y kind of feeling to it, and almost like a relatable experience, like as a stripper. Yeah. So it was really cool to see that.
It was. And just kind of like, you know, the atmosphere in the locker room with, you know, all of the women who've worked there for a while kind of looking over their shoulders like, oh, great, another new person.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just like the house mom, and like we don't have those here. So I love that dynamic too. To see just kind of like the way that they all are a family and a little bit leery of the outsider. And
yeah,
I felt it was just all very like, it captured sort of that first night for somebody, I thought, pretty accurately.
Yeah, me too, because I shared that, like, very similar experience, because, like, the club that I used to dance at, which is the Penthouse, like, for amateur night, you have to go, all the girls, basically all the VIP and freelancers get crammed into this one room, and then there's a room on the left, which is only for stage dancers. And I remember being crammed in this, like, room, and there's, like, 10 girls, and there's, like, other, like, you know, established, like, VIPs and freelancers that are there, and you're, like, just giving you the side eye, and be like, who's this bitch? I totally felt that.
Yeah, and not to say that, like, people were mean, it's just, like, they're not there to be your buddy, you know?
No.
And it was just,
Like, there's, like, what about you? Like, in terms of, like, pros and cons of the show, I guess maybe if you want to go into pros first, what you liked about it?
I mean, I really liked that they showed how real strippers dance, you know? Mm-hmm. They showed some really amazing athleticism.
Yes.
And I thought that was a pro, you know? Like, they showed what we look like when we're at work, you know, with the outfits and the stage dances, and even just dancing for customers on the floor. Like, I felt that was accurately represented.
Yeah.
You know, I thought the way that they kind of, like, overall pros, the way that they sort of kind of peppered in a little bit of, like, and before I start talking about these types of things, I just want to say a disclaimer. Like, I am white. I am from, you know, I grew up in the East Coast of U.S. and now I'm in Canada. Like, I don't have experience living as a Black woman in the South.
Me neither. So,
but
FYI.
I found it was cool how they kind of peppered in a lot of things about Black culture.
Yes.
And how, you know, some of these movements or this athleticism, where it comes from, you know, in their culture and the music, and, like, even just kind of, I think she called them the Majorettes, or the Chuckalisa Challengers, like her dance team.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that style of dancing is so cool. And you can kind of see how it just really gets thrown into, like, the showmanship, you know, that they do as older women in the club. Yeah. Did you notice that?
No, I definitely noticed that too. Like, great observation. I think they're really just detailed in a lot of aspects, as opposed to, like, other media portrayals that we've seen as of late, like, say, Hustlers and stuff like that, which I thought was great for, like, a blockbuster movie, but also, like, not a real depiction of what exactly happens in the club. You know what I mean? And very, very, like, glamorized.
A little soft.
A little soft. And not to say that this show isn't glamorized. Obviously, it's glamorized. It's for television. It's for ratings and stuff, too. So, of course, some things are to be exaggerated. And that's all, obviously, to me, to be expected. But, yeah, like, I thought in general that, like, I really liked how it brought sex workers to the forefront, as opposed to, again, other media portrayals and other depictions of sex workers, us just being in the background or being used as, like, a prop or something, or being that side chick or whatever. Like, that stereotype, or, like, that kind of portrayal. So it's really cool to kind of bring these stories to the front. And I really, really, really appreciated that. And also basically being really telling of specifically Black stories. So to me, like, this show really, really showcased that. And again, as a person of color, I'm Asian. I don't know these experiences, but I really felt it though. And I thought, at least for my own observation, I thought it would deem to be authentic. So I really, really like that, because I think some of the negative stereotypes that some of the listeners wrote in, they're like, oh, like, they thought that it was playing a negative stereotype of sex workers. And I don't know, I kind of had to like disagree a little bit on that. I thought it was pretty authentic to me.
Authentic. I definitely would say that as the show progressed, like, you know, with learning the backstories of some of the dancers, like their characters, like, yeah, it does kind of show, like, you know, you've got the girl who lives in the trailer park with her mom and she's like crushing up Xanax in her smoothie or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and then you've got kind of like the woman who is dealing with domestic violence.
Yes.
And, you know, they all definitely have their
backstories. You
know, their backstories and kind of their drama. But the one thing I guess I didn't love was how, you know, there were a lot of tropes that kind of were thrown into there, right? Like,
okay. Can you elaborate?
Well, yeah, like, you know, so you've got the I love that they only had one white dancer at the club.
Yeah.
You know, but she's like the white trailer trash, which is cool. Like, that's fine. I'm not upset with that at all. But like, yeah, I just, you know, I think that people watching the show and seeing, for example, Miss Mississippi with her bruises, and every day there's one in a different place, right?
Yeah.
And I think people may watch that show and go, oh, well, yeah, of course she's a stripper, you know, she's experiencing this at home, or she's, you know, marginalized or whatever. But like, anybody who works in an office could be sitting next to somebody whose partner is beating them. Like, just because that's where she works doesn't mean that that's why that's happening to her.
Yeah.
And I felt like, you know, maybe it was kind of portrayed in that light, like he was abusing her because she was a dancer.
Oh, yeah, possibly.
I don't know that they explained that, but like, that was the vibe that I got.
That's interesting. I feel like there's going to be more in season 2, and we are going to get into the characters. Everyone's probably like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Who's this? Who's that? We're going to get into the whole characters and the whole character development of the show. But yeah, no, I have to agree. Like, I wish there was a bit more backstory on Derek, who is the name of Keyshawn's or Miss Mississippi's partner, who was abusive to her. Like, I wish there was a little bit more on that, because then it just seemed that almost seemed like a stereotypical domestic abuse kind of situation. Yeah. There could have definitely been a bit more kind of background on that one. Totally. But I was
sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say like they did a really good job and like really hammering down all the main characters' backstories. But yeah, I was like, oh my god, like how are they gonna get through this in only 8 episodes?
Yeah, they could have done like a couple more to really just sort of like kind of tease out and like unpack a little bit more information.
Agreed. Like, I feel like, well, because it was such a ringer for the first season. I don't know if they expected that, but hopefully for season 2, because they have been renewed for season 2. Yay!
Okay.
So excited. Hopefully they'll be able to, as you said, unpack more of those details and get more of the backstory on some of those characters. So yeah. I also want to say, I guess, just going down with the cons a little bit too. And I don't have experience with a champagne room, because obviously I'm in North America. I'm in Canada. We don't have that here, at least not in British Columbia. I don't know if you guys have a champagne room.
We don't have them here. I think they do at a couple of the clubs in Niagara, but I've never worked in Niagara Falls, so I can't say for certain. But I feel like that's a place, because they're so close to the border of Buffalo, New York.
Right.
That I feel like they probably would have that experience there.
Yeah, that to me seemed like so like dreamlike in there, like the paradise room. I was like, with all the clouds and stuff. I'm like, what the heck is going on here?
That was okay. This is another thing that I felt was super authentic. Was the clips where they show the club like at night, and it's like the lights are going and it looks so glamorous, and you've got these like plush couches.
Yes,
and then they show it in like the daylight, and it's all
like torn up,
stained seats and like duct tape on the back of the chair.
Yes,
and I'm like, yeah, yep.
100% accurate. It's like club lights up. No, I think they did a good job with that too. Again, like going with the detail, I think they did a really good job in that. But I don't know. I think that pretty much summed up the pros and cons for me. Like I don't know if you had any other things to add in there as well.
The only other thing that I would add is that, and I don't know for certain like who they consulted or who they had perform, but that they actually did consult like multiple people who work in strip clubs. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that they actually used like strippers to do some of the stunt work or people that had worked in the industry. They actually did hire those types of people to do the work, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, I know that Katori Hall, who created the show and also the play of the same name, she actually spent, I think she's doing this research for quite a few years, so like 5 to 6 years, and she did interview over 40 women in the South specifically that are strippers and that are doing some kind of sex work. So I thought that was like really, really cool that she was able to talk with people and consult with actual people that work in the club in this kind of region.
And like hopefully compensate them for their
time.
Efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't know, I think, as I said, on a first glance, I think they did a really, really great job with the show. So I don't even know where to go. I'm just like, how are we going to do all this in like an hour? Because I'm just like, let's try to go into like characters here. There's so many characters.
Who was your favorite character?
I loved Mercedes. She is my fave. Yeah. I loved her.
I love how she talks so much shit. Oh, sorry, can I curse?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Curse as much as you want. Fuck, shit, whatever.
I love how much fucking shit she talks to customers, like in the club, just walking by, like. Yeah. There's a few women at my club that are like that, and I'm just like, oh, I love you.
I wish I had the balls to do that. I don't think I can pull it off. No, I think I can't. I'm too nice in the club, and I really, really hate like walking around and, you know, doing the rounds and freelancing. I really hate that stuff. I hate selling. So for me, I play like more like, not even the shy type, but like the really, really sweet type, which isn't a far cry from the truth, but
I can see that.
Thank you. But like, I don't know, like unless someone pisses me off, then like you don't want to mess with me, but that's another story. But I really liked her because then like she was the headliner, you know, she's this badass bitch, and I don't know, I feel like she was able to pull that off because she was the one bringing so many people to the club. She made a shit ton of money. People know her around town and stuff. And she just freaking owned it. I loved that. And I also loved, like, she also, like, had bigger goals, too, in terms of, like, her aspirations to have her own cheerleading gym. And that being a really, really big story arc during the show.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool that, you know, she had kind of, basically there was the goal at the end and that she had been saving her money and, you know, she was doing a lot of other things on the side, and I think showcasing that, you know, was really awesome. It gives people like, these are humans with lives and things that they care about and goals and, you know, humans at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Also, I forgot to say in the beginning of the show, we're going to be talking about spoilers. So if you don't want to hear anything, I'd probably stop now, but there's probably going to be some spoiler alert things in here, so if you haven't seen it, you probably want to turn it off at this point.
I think I ruined it at the very beginning.
Oh, did you actually? I can't remember. I'm just like, I fucking love this show. But yeah, like the whole thing, like when her gospel preaching mom, like stole her money to open up her church. I was like,
Lord.
I was like, are you kidding me? Like, and they had the whole fight. Oh my God, I was like cringing. Just cringing at that.
You know, I was kind of expecting that. I was fully expecting her mom to not end up giving her the money back.
Yeah, I just didn't know in what way she was going to do that. And then bitch turned around and bought her own fucking church. I was like, oh, damn. Yeah.
Oh no, that I could see right through that lady.
Oh, I know. She got tricks up her sleeve, and then the whole scene at the end when Mercedes was like begging her mom for forgiveness. I was like, oh my god,
that was really intense and raw. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and she doesn't have her hair on. Like
I
it
know.
was just. It was really, really like completely dialed back, like no makeup, no wig, just there, raw, vulnerable. Like she'd just been through so much shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
She's a great actress.
Super great. Mercedes is played by Brandy Evans. Very talented actress. I loved how she portrayed herself and her character in the show. Just incredible acting skills. And I think pole dancing skills too, because I think she did all the stunts there too, or at least most of them, from what I saw. Movie magic, though.
I believe they had someone do some of her stunting, but I don't remember who. I'm really bad with remembering names. I'm sorry.
Me too. I don't have those in my notes right now, so I'm like, crap. But another character that I really enjoyed seeing on the screen, and who was also in the original Playwright, was Uncle Clifford. Loved him.
Uncle Clifford was my favorite character, hands down.
I loved him. So, well, her, actually. Sorry, I should say her by using the proper pronoun, because Uncle Clifford, although her, sorry, I keep saying this. Her character name is Uncle Clifford. So, gender fluid, non-binary. And what I liked about her is that she embraced both the feminine and the masculine, you know, like kind of acted like a house mommy to all the dancers, but also just like doesn't fuck around with people, and just kind of like exudes that stereotypical like really masculine aggressive energy that I really liked to watch. And just seeing the contrast was really interesting.
I was so pleasantly surprised to see the way that they depicted that character, and just like the relationships that Uncle Clifford engaged in. Like, I thought it was really poignant, and I thought that they played it out beautifully. You know, I think that there's a lot of violence against Black trans women or Black non-binary, you know, women and, like, you know, sex workers of color, and there was a lot wrapped up in that character.
So much. So
like,
much.
Yeah, I just, when that whole scene first happened with Uncle Clifford and Lil Murda, I was just like, no, tell me is this happening? Oh my God, it's happening. Like, I was just like giddy. I was so excited.
Me too. And you can't see me right now, but
see that.
No. And I'm like literally jumping up and down right now as you were saying that. Because I was also rooting for that. I was like, is this actually happening? Like, no way.
Oh, it happened, and it was so good. Like, I'm so glad that happened.
Me too, and that's another topic that you don't really get to see discussed about very often, and it happens a lot with a lot of cis hetero males. Will usually go to trans individuals and you don't have some kind of romance going on with that, but still remain in the closet. So it's really, really explorative, or even I would say experimental in that way too, but still like protecting themselves as well. It's a really interesting thing to watch and to digest. So yeah, like I thought that was really cool. And like, again, so one of my favorite characters on the show, hands down.
Yes. I mean, just an overall, like, really soft person, but like you said, at the same time, very strong and takes no shit and, you know, gives people opportunities, but you mess with Uncle Clifford once and you're done. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you're fucking done.
And his grandma, like, or her grandma, can we talk about?
Yes.
Ernestine.
So good.
Oh, like, just joy, right? Just a joyful woman, like, and seeing that support of her grandson, you know, just being unapologetically who they are it was great.
It was great, and it's really nice for her to embrace that, and I love seeing that acceptance, because unfortunately that is not a reality for lots of people that identify as trans. Like, those stories can be quite tragic, and unfortunately fatal in some situations.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's just nice to see that support coming from her grandmother. Like, I really loved seeing that. And that actress too, I forgot what her name was, but like it was good to see her because I haven't seen her in some films lately, but I think they really
I don't remember her name either.
I know, I'm just like, I've seen her before many times, but they did such a great job with the casting there too. But I don't know if you want to talk about Andre, Keyshawn, Miss Mississippi. There's just so many things, like so many other story arcs there, like with Andre being the real estate lawyer, developer, like his uncle being the mayor, and him being from that town, and yeah, that the whole arc was confusing a little bit in the beginning because I didn't really understand his relationship with the mayor before until it was revealed that, oh, that's like his uncle, and he was like trying to do his uncle a favor, and is trying to, the whole thing with the Promised Land Casino, trying to take over the land where the Pynk, the strip club, is going to be. Like, that whole gentrification story arc was, again, like another thing that is really major, and also something that happens in so many different cities too. That happened here in Vancouver as well years ago, right? So
yeah, for sure. Well, and I think, like, you know, the mayor was talking about, you know, this town has, you know, such a high unemployment rate, and he's trying to be this mayor who brings the town back to life. And
yes.
You know, he's a Black man, and he wants to really kind of take back the pride of this town, right? And he sees the strip club as and Uncle Clifford as a tumor, right, in the town, and wants to get rid of it, you know, by any means necessary. But yeah, I think that's where kind of the storyline with Andre became interesting, because he was kind of like, you know, he was okay, like he was a good character to have around, but I think he more was sort of like kind of like a messenger, just kind of helping us figure out like what was going on behind the scenes with all of the like buying the property stuff. Like, you know, he was okay. But I think, there was definitely, sorry?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, he wasn't one of my favorite characters.
No.
But he definitely served a purpose.
Yeah.
But he was kind of a slimy bastard.
He was slimy, and I don't even know if he's going to be appearing in season 2, because I don't really see a need for him personally. But
I mean, Haley said goodbye to him.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. So he out.
Yeah, I think he's gone. He doesn't need to be there anymore.
No. I also wanted to really highlight the Keyshawn and Miss Mississippi. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier in the episode, but yeah, Miss Mississippi is really an interesting character to me. Like, she just seems like really, really, really sweet, and I loved watching her on the show, and almost seems to be a little bit like fame hungry, you know? She's really obsessed with getting the likes and all this, and being an influencer and all that.
I could definitely see her being a bit of kind of like using people a little bit, you know, because like you said, she's maybe got a bit of an agenda and she's trying to get herself ahead. And I don't know if that's why she's with, you know, the boyfriend that she's with, like if he's got money, or if like, I didn't understand like exactly why she was with him.
Yeah.
Is he the baby daddy?
I thought he was. I mean, that's my understanding.
I thought he was too.
So
I definitely made an assumption that he was.
Me too. And I think that's what most audience members would kind of assume in that position. But like, of course, it was like one of those situations where this is the relationship we were talking about early in the episode, where so Mrs. Mississippi, she's this budding dancer, super sweet. She brings her baby to the club sometimes and has to take care of her in between her stage sets and stuff. But she's with this dude who's just a horrible guy. Obviously, it's obvious that he beats her. You'll see that there's bruises on her arms throughout the season. And the finale was crazy to me. Like, I was just rooting for her. Oh my God. Like, I can't even get into it. Like, the whole thing when her boyfriend, Derek, comes to the club, watching her set. She's on there with Lil Murda, dancing her butt off. And then she's talking with like the manager, the potential manager guy or whatever that wants to manage little Murda, and Derek's like, can I talk to you? And then she's like, I said wait, you know. She like gave him so much attitude, and then she paid for that later, because then he pretty much like threatened her. He's like, get your shit now, 5 minutes, blah blah blah. Like, it was crazy. And then the whole like gun situation too, when she pulled the gun on Diamond, and like I was just rooting for her and Diamond to be together.
So I still am, and I have a theory about what happened at the end there.
Okay, tell me.
Because I was rooting for her and Diamond too. Like, you know, he's one of the security guys, and he like, you know, checks in on her and helps care for the baby sometimes while she's there and has to go on stage, and he's just like a kind, caring, like big teddy bear with muscles that could kill you.
Yes.
And like really handsome too.
Yeah,
and
babe.
I thought for sure that at the end what was going on was like he was going to kill Derek. Like, he loves Keyshawn. I think Diamond loves Keyshawn, and he knows enough about their relationship, and he had the opportunity to basically like take him away from the picture and make Keyshawn safe. And I think she didn't want Diamond to get in trouble for like beating him to death. And so she pulled the gun on him to say, please stop.
Interesting. That's an
so
interesting
that he doesn't
theory.
get in trouble for killing the guy.
Right. That is really an interesting approach. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, because he gives her that necklace at the, you know, kind of at the earlier part of the episode.
Yes.
Or is it at the end of 7? I can't remember. But
one of the two.
Know, basically tells her that, like, you know, his partner in Iraq, I think, you know, had this special crystal on him when he saved Diamond's life, and he kind of passes it on to Keyshawn for protection and safety that night. Like, I definitely think that has something to do with, like, her then in turn saving him.
Ah, interesting.
I don't know.
Hey.
I think we're going to learn more about that in the next season.
In season 2, for sure. Like, because basically what happens, so, like, Diamond, the bouncer, who I believe also is in love with Keyshawn / Miss Mississippi, like sees some things, and obviously, like, saw that Derek is about to beat her or whatever, and then finds Derek in the bathroom and is about to kill him. And then Keyshawn comes and pulls the gun on Diamond. I'm just like, no!
Yeah, well, because I think Derek had the gun on him.
Yeah.
And then at some point during the fight, pulls it on Diamond. And then there was shots that were fired during that fight, which is what, like, cleared out the whole club.
Yes.
And then, they kind of kept tussling. Basically, it was going to be a fight to the death. One of them was going to die.
Yeah, for sure. But
speaking
of death, holy shit. In the Paradise Room, so there's this whole thing. So basically with Autumn / Haley. Autumn Knight is her stage name. Haley is her real name. This guy that's been stalking her, it's basically her former partner. And he's loaded. She's getting all this money throughout the season. We don't really know where the money's coming from until, like, later in the season. It's, I guess, this guy that she was formerly in a relationship with, who she tried to escape from, got caught in the flood, and then found herself there. So he actually traced, I guess, the banking movements to Chuckalissa, where she is, and showed up at the club and then asked for a dance, and, like, the whole thing went down, and oh my goodness, like, there's just a lot of things that happen there, and basically
that guy creeped me out.
Yeah,
that was just like, and so I think what happened was, like, he traced her bank wires through, like, somebody who had set up these accounts for her. He killed that guy who, like, set up all the accounts for her. And then, traced her there, went to the sheriff's station, and, like, gave them basically a photo of her so that they put up a poster. And then I think the sheriff was the one that actually, like, found her walking around somewhere.
Right, yeah, I saw
either
that.
In Chuckalissa or at the actual club.
Yeah, that guy, because then she was, like, outside of the club with, like, the bag and stuff. And
yeah,
and it's also, like, her ex, I think his name's Montavious, like, he's part of the gang Delta Devoted or something, and I feel like there's going to be more of that in season 2. Although, I mean, someone killed him.
Yeah.
And we don't know. So there was Mercedes in the room who went to try and save her because then she recognized like the ring and stuff that he was wearing. And then, of course, no one's watching the cameras until like Uncle Clifford saw there's some shit going on in there. Went there. And then we just don't know what happens. But you see blood coming out like underneath the door. And then it's like cut to the next day. And you're just like, what happened? Like, who killed him? Like,
who do you think killed him?
Oh, man. I want to say it's either Mercedes or Uncle Clifford. Because they look pretty beat up. Both of them. I don't know if Haley did it or would do it.
Haley shot him the first time when she escaped from him, right? And she thought she killed him.
Yeah. Thought she killed him.
Can you imagine somebody you thought you killed showing up at the club?
Literally coming back from the dead.
Yeah. I want my money.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, no, I think it was Mercedes.
Okay. Why do you think so?
I would put money on it being Mercedes.
Yeah.
Because she was, just because she was begging her mother for forgiveness.
Yes.
She was like, I think she was at that church to try and repent. I think she was there because she killed him and she was like, I need to, get good with God again or
cleanse
whatever.
my soul.
Yeah, and then so when they're in the club the next day, like they're there with, Haley's there, Clifford's there, they're there with Ernestine, and then Mercedes shows up.
Yeah.
There's a very little quick exchange between the three of them where she says, is it handled?
Yeah, is it handled? And she said, yeah.
And Clifford goes, yes, it's handled.
Yeah.
So I think that meant like either did you get rid of the body or did you get rid of the tape?
Yeah. Right? I feel like something happened there. But I'm just like dying
Mercedes asked the question, and I think like just the look in her eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think she's the one who did it.
I also feel like Mercedes is like at this point in the show is just so desperate. Like she's just lost everything, with losing her money and her potential cheerleading gym to her mom. And then also that exchange in the last episode too with, I guess, one of her regular clients. Did you remember that part where like he gave her the coach guy, who like wanted a part of it, and she's like, oh hell no, like you're not getting any kind of ownership to this. And then he gave her this kind of deal. He's like, okay, well, I'll get you an apartment and you could stay with me and do this and like basically be a side chick. And I feel like she was contemplating that because I don't think she has any other plan B, plan C. Like I think she's at the end of her rope here. So
yeah, I think she was contemplating it too.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if she's gonna go through with it, but
I feel like maybe she will, but she'll still continue working at the Pynk.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's to be determined. And I mean, at the end of the episode, it's really cool too with the whole auction part as well, because they're all like dressed up in funeral, like black, like gear. And I guess they were just expecting, the club to be outbid. And then fucking Haley comes out of nowhere, all the lot of cash. Yeah. That was great.
From her Gen X partner. Oh, it was so great. And she just looks just like this.
Yeah.
Just like boss bitch, like Kill Bill type, like,
I love that
coming
scene.
in and saving the day.
It was so good. So good. I can't wait for season 2.
I know, me too. I think it's going to be really juicy, and I think it's going to be pretty explosive.
I think so too. Well, that was a lot of like character talk. There was so many things I want to also discuss here in terms of like different themes, different kind of isms. And like what I mean by isms, like I'm talking about colorism, I'm talking about racism, I'm talking about classism. There's so many intersecting layers in this show that I found to be particularly interesting. And I don't know which parts you like kind of want to like talk about first, but I don't know. I felt that those are pretty present in the show myself, but
they were. I think the colorism thing was really interesting. To be honest, I had to Google a few terms because I did not know what they were talking about.
Oh yeah, which ones? Tell me.
So they kept calling Haley / Autumn high yellow heifer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what is high yellow? I don't get that. So I Googled it, and it was basically like, basically it would be a high yellow. So it's like a lighter skinned
skin
black
tone.
woman. And I was like, okay, because basically they kept referring to that as like a position of privilege.
Yes.
Just based on her color, she was basically higher on the ladder than everybody else.
Yes.
And there was references of purple skin, I think, or blue skin, for people that were super, super dark.
Yeah.
And they kind of seemed to break each other down into different categories of blackness.
Yes. That's definitely very apparent in the show, for sure. And you can kind of see that, too, in the first episode when she's walking in and she's like this lighter-skinned black woman, and you can see and kind of feel the tension in between her and Mercedes, too.
Yeah.
Because Mercedes, like, she's a headliner, she's the best dancer in the club, and you can really feel that competitiveness, too. And, like, Haley just walks on in there. She doesn't even have any pole tricks or anything like that, but she still kills it because, unfortunately, like, I feel like a lot of the times people like the lighter skin look, Right. And that's kind of like a thing, right?
And she was tall. She was on the slimmer side. Mm-hmm. She had lots of those things that, I mean, I hate to say it, but you typically see. And so I loved seeing different body types in this show and all sorts of beautiful black women doing their thing. It was just
incredible.
It was refreshing, actually.
Yeah. Well, it was really cool, too, just to have a show completely centered around black sex workers. I really loved seeing that. And just having the inclusivity of different kinds of genders on the show, too. Again, like all these different layers that come together, I think really make the show like what it is, too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, too, another thing that was really neat was kind of the way that they layered, like, sisterhood between the girls that work together.
Right.
They're really tight and they watch out for each other and they have each other's backs, and it didn't matter if you were white or black or dark or light. It was just your family because you have this shared common experience.
Right. Yeah. I loved seeing that. And I thought
that was pretty neat.
I loved seeing that as well. Because, even at the club, where we work, too, you feel that sisterhood and you feel that bond with all the women that you're sharing the stage with and who you're working with. I don't know. At least I feel that. There's, that bond, that sisterhood.
Oh, me too. Big time. That was kind of one of the only things that, was identifiable for me, in the Hustlers movie, was kind of that camaraderie between the women. A woman that I work with, she was on another podcast a little while ago, and she kind of said that, people were like, oh, that's not how it is at the club. The women don't get along, and they're fighting in the locker room. And
what?
Sammy was like, actually, at my club, we all, huddle under somebody's coat in the winter and, smoke a big blunt together and, talk about our nights. And it's absolutely not a fight in the locker room at all.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. 100%. Of course, I also want to talk about the racism too that was in the show. We didn't see too much of it. I think more so with the interactions with the potential new landowners and that whole
the Kyle brothers, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty intense when, what was his name? Andre was there trying to get the
paper
signed.
Yeah.
That was a really disgusting moment for me to have to watch.
Me too. That was crazy.
I didn't like that. That made me
very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable, and just basically saying the Civil War's not over and we can either do this the way that we want to do it, or if you want to do it your way, you're basically not going to live through it.
Yeah.
And it was just
because he pulled the shotgun on him, and I was like, is this actually going to happen right now? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was some Civil War shit.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I am not comfortable with this.
No, too. And I remember reading an interview with Katori Hall, and I remember she was on location in one of these areas where she was wanting to film the show, looking at and admiring the cotton fields, and one of the white farmers was like, go ahead and pick it. And I'm just like, oh my God, are you serious?
they used that line in the show. The show too.
They did.
Yeah.
And that was based on her actual experience, that someone actually had the audacity to say that to her. Like,
wow.
Chilling.
I mean, it's yeah, I had an experience last night at my club. I was sitting with a woman who I was kind of working with on and off last night. Mm-hmm. She's Black. And we sat down with this one man. He was by himself. He was white. And very quickly, just the stuff he started to say, like, I had never experienced somebody blatantly just, telling somebody that they didn't find them attractive because they're Black.
What?
I swear to God, like, I was so
gosh.
uncomfortable. I'm looking at my friend like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, should we just like what? And she was basically just removed herself.
Yeah.
And I did too quite shortly after.
That's
but
insane.
Yeah, it was just, I'd never really heard it like that kind of in front of me in like the work atmosphere.
And just so frank too. Like, that's
so
crazy.
Frank. And she was so graceful through it all. Like, she kind of was just like, okay, so you've got your flavor. I get it. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
She wasn't, and it's just, that's a lot of emotional labor that it's extra work that she's got to do, and she's not being compensated for it. And
no.
Like, fuck.
And no one should be subjected to that kind of conversation. Like, at that point, that's not even a conversation anymore. You know what I mean? Like, we discussed this briefly on some of the BLM episodes that I had too. And like, as your friend said, like, some people just have their own flavor and stuff, but it's those like really tiny microaggressions that just really, really show people's true characters. And it's really an ugly side that I do not support at all. No, me neither. He did not see either of our naked bodies. Good. He doesn't deserve it.
He was not graced.
No. Oh, gosh. I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about classism as well, because I was there too, and I was like, oh my God, we're almost at an hour. But if you wanted to really talk about that too, we can go over an hour.
If you want to talk about that, we can go.
Yeah, it's just really interesting to kind of see. And there wasn't like a ton of it. Like, maybe there was a little bit, but in terms of just, I feel like Haley might have been from a more upper class upbringing, just the way that she talked.
So too.
Yeah, the way that she, even just like her speech, how she talked and how she like held herself, it was clear that she's not from the area. So I don't know if one, it's like a dialect thing, or if it's two, that she kind of had a different kind of upbringing than the ladies that were there in the South. So like, that to me is really interesting. And then you could also see like Andre too, how he's obviously in a different class of people too, but I mean, his heart is in his home, and his home is Chuckalissa as well. And I felt like he was kind of trying to balance the two a little bit throughout the season. But again, there's only 8 episodes, so it's hard to really like get into detail with all that. But I thought it was an interesting observation. At least for me, that's what I observed. It could be different for you. It could be different from other people too, but a minor thing that I had seen. So
I honestly, I picked up on it mostly when I noticed them working in the club and like trying to pick out their customers based on, how they looked.
Yes.
Or the way that they were portraying themselves from like a class perspective, or like a how much money they have perspective. I think you're right about Haley, because at the very last episode, he talked about her being an accountant.
Yes, I do remember that too.
And so, and like, obviously he's wealthy, just like the suit he was wearing at the end, like,
yes,
there was definitely some money there. I mean, if she was just able to wire $250,000 out of their account in like a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it definitely seemed like there was, she came from a different cloth than some of the other people.
Right.
I didn't really focus in too much on like the classism stuff.
No, it was more of like an afterthought for me, but I thought it was still apparent in the discussion.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, like you've got like, Andre, who's kind of like, I guess, a lawyer of some sorts, right? Mm-hmm. Who's trying to like broker this deal. Yeah. And like he has obviously moved on to Atlanta, which is like a bigger city. It's more metropolitan, but his roots, and he kept calling Chuckalissa home. Yeah. So he obviously still felt the connection to there. Like he didn't really feel like Atlanta Andre Esquire.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. He's a good looking dude though, but
yeah, I didn't mind looking at him throughout the season.
Yeah, wasn't bad, especially in the earlier episodes with like the Haley and Andre like sex scenes. I'm like, ooh, this is
the
nice.
phone sex scene, that was so hot.
That was super hot. I was like, I like this show. I like where it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's just so many, as I said, there's just so many layers in the show that I think they did a really good job. I just wish there was like a few more episodes, at least 10 episodes, to really just iron all the details out, because I still have so many questions, but I guess maybe they're just saving that for season 2. Who knows? But
maybe. Like, I've got questions about the drug deal that was going on with Big L. I've got questions about that guy who had the ankle bracelet.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
you know, the ankle monitor. And like,
yeah.
What was his role? I don't get it.
I didn't understand that. Like, was he a friend of Mercedes, or like what was his relationship to Mercedes at that point?
I feel like, I don't know. So she would see him normally when she was out, like, on a run, right?
Yeah.
She, like, ran by his house one time, and he kind of, like, I don't know if they'd had, like, a romantic history.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I have no idea how they were connected. Like, he could be her daughter's dad for all we know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the whole, oh my God, that whole daughter thing, too. I just, oh, man, that's so sad.
Part when, like, that was, like, her losing her gym was, like, also losing, like, an opportunity to get her daughter back.
Yeah. Or
that
at least
so
just
sad.
have more contact with her daughter at the very least, you know? Like,
yeah.
So heartbreaking to see all that. I'm like, oh my God. Crying.
Yeah. And I thought that was kind of, like, I don't think I picked up on the reason why she lost Tarika, who was her daughter.
Yeah.
But it does kind of play on, you know, like, a fact that children and babies are taken away from Black women at rates that are way higher than, you know, white women and other people. So 100%. It, you know, kind of does sort of tune into that kind of underlying, like, sociological issue,
yeah, for sure. And that's a huge thing too. And I remember, like, again, one of those comments earlier just saying, oh, are these like all stereotypes? Like, I don't want to say stereotypes, but again, it just shows the real hard truth about some of these lives, and especially these in particular Black lives, you know? So I thought that it was really important to also show that, you know, especially given the regionality of the show being in the South, where the poverty rate is a lot higher, and same with the unemployment rate. Like, all these things, all these socioeconomic statuses and that whole thing together, like, those all play a part, and which you see unveiled on the show. So
it's a show that's, it definitely highlights a lot of the intersections, you know, for people of color, but specifically female sex workers of color living in the South, and, you know, just how multifaceted their lives can be.
Very
you know,
multifaceted.
I think quite often sex workers and strippers can really be, like, objectified and kind of made into this, like, one-dimensional object.
Yeah, or an
and it's
umbrella.
nice to see shows that don't just, you know, highlight the hustle, but they also highlight the struggles and, you know, the family dynamics that are going on behind the scenes that people don't think about that when they come to the club, and that's fine. You know, we're there at work and they're there to consume a service, but it's nice to be reminded that, you know, sex workers are humans and they've got hearts and feelings and things that make them tick.
Yeah, absolutely. I love everything that you said there. 100%. I do want to kind of move the conversation over, unless you have some other closing notes there, but we did have a couple questions that came in as well.
No, I don't think I have any other notes left. I think we've done a good job so far. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, I really wanted to do like a weekly episode, just dissecting each episode, but I just knew that, like, I just don't have the bandwidth for that right now, but it would have been really cool. It is a lot of work on top of this already busy podcast. So yeah, there's some questions that came in as well that were just, directed towards the show. So I guess these are more going to be opinion based. So person writes in, I need to know more about the floss lady. Do clubs actually have that? I wish they did. I mean, mine doesn't, but I can't speak for other ones, especially like ones in the States or ones in Europe and stuff, but it does not exist in my club. I
think for the most part in the States, you do get, you know, a lady there that will either sell pre-made outfits. I don't, like, when she made that outfit for Mercedes, like, at the snap of a finger in the last episode. I was like, sign me up for that.
Yeah.
But no, I think in the States, like there's definitely, you know, women that will either bring in like pre-made outfits to sell to the dancers in the club. They'll have makeup, they'll have hair straighteners and, you know, baby wipes and deodorant and tampons and all that kind of stuff that people will need on hand at the club. But I think that's, you know, the bigger clubs and the really big money clubs.
Exactly.
You know, like you see at like G5 in Miami or King of Diamonds, you know, those places are probably just...
Totally. And you mentioned
crazy.
that you grew up in the East Coast of the States?
Yeah, I grew up on Long Island in New York.
In New York, yeah. Amazing.
I never went to any strip clubs there, sadly.
Darn, I was going to ask my next question, like, did you go to any clubs out there?
No, but there's a dancer I follow on YouTube and Instagram, and she's just hilarious. Her name is Tiffany B, and she dances in clubs on Long Island and in New York City. So if you want to know what it's like there, follow her.
Okay, Tiffany B. I'm going to check that out later. It's my homework for tonight. Cool. Here's another question here in regards to the show. So, was the relationship between Kayshawn and her boyfriend a stereotype? Not a dancer stereotype, but an abused woman stereotype, or like Stockholm syndrome, ? What's your opinion on that?
It's interesting. Mm-hmm. I mean, typically women who are being abused or, you know, victims of domestic violence, it takes them a number of times to try and leave an abusive situation. Yes. I don't know the exact number, but I would say that, I mean, I've never lived through that experience, thankfully, but I would say that, like, yeah, you know, you're going to have a woman who, you know, in that situation, like in the end, she defended him and she stopped him from being killed. And we don't really know the reason why, but I would say that, you know, not having lived that experience, but having read some literature about it, I'd say that it might be pretty typical, you know, that she can kind of shut it off when she's at work. She did a really good job of compartmentalizing her personal life and her work life.
Absolutely.
And I think that would be pretty typical, you know, trying to hide the bruises, work through it, downplay them, lie about them. Yeah. Protecting him. I think those are all pretty typical behaviors.
They are. Like, they're kind of masking, like, you know, it's no big deal. Like, oh, I fell. Yeah, like I fell and he only laid a hand on me once, you know, just kind of trying to minimize those situations, even though they are quite dire. And it does, as you said, and I don't know the exact statistic, but it takes many, many, many attempts for an abused woman to leave her abuser. It takes so much time to do it, because it's also like a really mental thing too. It's a mind fuck, basically, you know, these...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, as a woman who is working in a strip club, you're already disadvantaged at, if somebody finds out, you could lose your child just based on your line of work. Right. You know? So that could be something that maybe he has threatened her with, that if you leave me, I'm going to go to family court and say you're a sex worker. Yeah, and you're going to lose your baby. Yeah. So there's so many things on the line there, and it's just really, really incredibly difficult for women to flee those situations. So for me, that is typical. Yes, I don't want to say stereotypical, because stereotypical is dangerous, but it is typical of those victims in abusive or domestic violence situations, for sure. Like, it's not easy. I can't say that I have ever been in a physically abusive situation before, but I've definitely been in a mentally abusive relationship that was awful. And the mind tricks and the gaslighting that these men put you through is very real. It's pretty much brainwashing at the point you second guess yourself and stuff too. You know, I'm never going to do it again. And you really want to believe them. And unfortunately, it's a pattern. It does not change. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that. So I don't think it's stereotypical, but I think it is a real thing. And I would love to give you the statistics, but maybe I'll try to put that in the show notes later. So yeah. I feel like the number is somewhere between like 7 and 9 attempts before you're able to successfully leave like an abusive partner. Somewhere around there.
That sounds familiar to me. So you could possibly be right on that one. Thank you for that. And I guess the last question here is, how do they always get promo material printed so fast? Posters and flyers are expensive and take time to print. I love this.
It's the magic of television, babe.
Yeah, basically. Like, it does, I agree with you. It takes a lot of time to print, or you got to, have your marketing calendar. Okay, this needs to be done at this time. This needs to be printed at this time. It's a lot of head work, but also movie magic. So there you go.
Yeah, I think it's an editing trick.
It's an editing trick for sure. But before I let you go, where can we find you, Kat?
I am available on Instagram at CatXDaniels, and it's Cat with a K. It is a private account. I usually reserve that account for connecting with other dancers and sex workers and people in the industry. Occasionally I let a man follow me if I'm feeling generous. But yeah, you can definitely find me on there. Anybody in the industry, I would love to connect and chat and follow you back as well.
Yeah, I have definitely had so much fun on the show today with you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wonderful expert opinion on dissecting P-Valley.
Myself an expert, but I really enjoyed this conversation and talking about it with someone else. I haven't really had the chance to do this yet. So thank you for having me.
Anytime. And you're going to have to come on for season 2 recap. So I'm going to be knocking on your door next year. So
you let me know when. I'll be there.
Absolutely. But thanks, guys, for listening. That wraps up another episode of Strip by Sia. Don't forget to like, rate, follow, subscribe, write a nice review on Apple. That's how you keep up in the Apple charts. So do that. And it's Strip by Sia on Instagram. Sia Steph is my personal. Get at me. And we'll catch up with you guys next week. Peace out. Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Strip by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Artwork by Maria Bellandarama. Music by Ted D. And photography by Ian Dabern.